Shio, my name's Chris McCoy. I'm here with Chief Sneed. We're going to give an update on some of the videos that we'd recently put out. Chief Sneed, what's happening?
Well, first and foremost, Chris, I want to say to the viewing public and to our employees and to all of our tribal citizens, just a heartfelt gratitude for all of the support. I have to give all the credit to the team around me. You know, it's been a bit overwhelming with just the support from the community, people sending me text messages, emails, phone calls, saying how grateful they are for everything that we're doing to protect our people. And, you know, I have to share the credit for that with the team of my division secretaries. You know, they're working every day to keep everything moving behind the scenes. So just want to say thank you to them. Thank you to council for their support, and to the vice chief for his support. One of the videos, as you know, we did the other day talked about our long-term strategic plan for allowing our employees to be able to stay at home during this stay-at-home order, but to be able to still continue to be paid. And there's been a bit of a knee-jerk reaction from some, but honestly, everybody I've talked to understands. They're very grateful. So just kind of full disclosure, full transparency, we wanted to talk about how we arrived at our decision, that it wasn't just some off-the-cuff decision that we made. So I have with me today, I've asked Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Corey Blankenship, to be here to give some insight to that. So, Corey.
All right.
So part of what we want to talk about today with the viewing public is that we're in a very good financial position, right? We have worked diligently over the last 3 years to really implement a conservative process for how we budget resources. Right. And so financially, you know, there's a lot of comments and questions from the community is like, can we afford to do this? Right. And so the answer is yes. Like in the short term, absolutely, we can afford to do this. We have touted that we're at 80% of gaming projection, and that essentially gives us a 20% window to operate in, which means that we can shoulder some miss to plan within our casino gaming operations. But also know that while casino gaming is the largest revenue generator for us, we also have privilege and tax, or privilege tax and levy that are collected, which is about $17 million a year, and we have grant revenues that are north of $60 million a year. So a lot of our essential services have continued. Okay. So the impact extends not just from the gaming operation, but also to the local business community. They're shouldering the brunt of this closure as well. So financially, the tribe is in a solid position to be able to weather that storm and to actually provide assistance to tribal members as well as to local businesses in getting through this particular crisis. It's interesting that the circumstances nobody could have predicted, but honestly, we couldn't have been better prepared for this situation from a finance perspective. Right. So essentially what we have is that at 80% of projection in that 20% window, we can actually stand to miss projection by about $40 million. Okay. But what you have to look at from a cash flow perspective is that distributions from gaming come to the tribe monthly. Okay, so we don't have a big pot of money stashed away somewhere. This is a... So not exactly, right? So we've been fortunate that we've been able to set aside. We've created savings plans. Right. We don't spend everything that we budget on an annual basis. We have excess gaming revenues because we're at 80% and they achieve 100% or more of their projection that we have close to reserves. So we have a healthy level of reserves. I think the most important point is how do we maintain that going forward? Right. And so it's a scenario where even though we're in a good position, we have to start making small incremental changes now to how we expend funds so that we can sustain that over the long term. Gotcha. It's not a scenario where we can just step in and exhaust all of our financial resources. I think one of the things that the community has to think about is the cost to restart this economic engine and what that's going to look like, and the fact that we don't quite know when that will be. Right. There's a lot of uncertainty with this, Chief, and as Corey's mentioned, it doesn't just turn back on. We don't green flag it, you know, on a certain date, and then everybody comes back to our casino or comes back to our economy. It's going to be a slow restart as well. Exactly. Yeah, and let me speak to that for just a second. You know, in speaking to some of you know, the subject matter experts in the gaming industry, trying to get a feel for what's this going to look like. And to your point, no one really knows at this point because. For one, we don't know how this virus is going to behave over the short term and long term as far as is there going to be a reoccurrence of it? What happens during the summer months? Is it going to die off like the flu? We don't really know yet. So even if, best case scenario, we were able to start, open the doors to the casino, say, in May,
it's not as if it's going to go back to the same levels.
To the May business of 2019.
Not going to happen. So what the industry is saying is that whenever they're able to open up again, you're looking at minimum 6 months to a year, but probably closer to 18 months to returning to the levels we were at before. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
Right.
There are 10 million Americans who have signed up for unemployment. There are going to be lots of firms, lots of businesses that do not survive this. There are going to be a lot of people that don't have disposable income for entertainment and gaming afterwards. So the world's going to look very different when this is over.
Right.
And I think that's, if there's one area where I think people need to kind of fix their mind, is that this isn't going to be, a month from now, we flip the switch and it goes back to life as we knew it prior to the pandemic. Life's going to be very different. It's going to take time, and so it's going to require people to be patient. It's going to require people to make adjustments. It's going to require all of us to make sacrifices. It's just going to look very different.
But does everybody need to panic right now?
Absolutely not. I mean, we are in an outstanding position from a lot of different perspectives. Corey described the financial position because of our very conservative budgeting over the last 3 years.
Right.
We look great financially. Because of that, we have the ability to allow our employees to stay home during this with pay, with benefits, with accruing leave.
Right.
When all around us, you have people who are having to file for unemployment, that they've just lost their job altogether. So we look great. Do we need to panic? No. And the other side too, I mean, the fact that we have essentially closed our borders, we're screening, the workers that we have coming in. Counties are, there are surrounding counties. I don't know if anybody has seen some of the videos that the mayor of Andrews has put up. I mean, he's pleading with the county commissioners to block off the roads coming in, because essentially Cherokee County is the gateway from Georgia into North Carolina. He says, Andrews, we don't have a hospital, just like Robbinsville. They don't have a hospital or a clinic. It could be devastating locally. So by comparison, we look amazing. We're very well insulated. We have an outstanding healthcare system that is following all of the best practices from around the world, not just what's being suggested locally here in the United States, but best practices from around the world. So, kudos to our healthcare team, to CIHA governing body, our CEO, Public Health and Human Services Secretary and her division. Everybody's doing everything right. So no, we look great.
Great. Well, thanks for updating the public on that for sure, and giving us kind of an explanation as to why we're making these small adjustments we're having to make for the long-term plan.
Sure.
Hopefully we don't have to get into that long-term. Hopefully this thing starts to resolve when we hit that curve and that downhill slope and we can get back to business. But it's good to know that we can at least take care of our tribal employees and our members and our services that we have in place for everybody right now while we're in this pandemic.
If I could close on one thing, I have had just a few requests or questions about, well, can we do something financially for tribal citizens living in other states? Currently we don't have a plan for that, mainly because we don't have the resources to just be able to send money all across the country at this point. I wish that we did, but we don't.
There's not a mechanism in place or a plan for that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Corey, thanks for coming on. And as you start to get projections from the casino, or as this thing starts to turn downhill, and we can start to figure out where, not downhill, but as it starts to slope down and we start to see a light at the end of the tunnel, for lack of better words, come on and let's update the public on how we're going to have to adjust some things that we might have to move on to get this train rolling again and positive for everybody.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for watching us at home, and have a great day, Shki.